Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the sort of legal statute of limitations and should it apply, or where should it apply, how should it apply, to which cases should it apply? Should it apply universally? Should there be limitations of time on anything? It could be robbery or murder or assault or something. Should there be limitations? But one of the main reasons, or one of the primary reasons why there are limitations, is because, apart from the fact that main witnesses may be dead or something like that, but it's that the memory plays tricks on people over time. You probably notice it yourself. Say you think you remember vividly some line in a movie or some scene in a movie, and then many years later, you see the movie again and you go, "Oh, that's not as I remembered it." So the mind can play tricks on you in terms of recollection. Something that appears to be crystal clear may not. Some people have excellent recall, others not. So anyway, just on the issue of, there were 3 cases recently that where there were no actual crimes, but where you'd say that the acts were morally repugnant, but where there was no actual criminality. And these cases were brought to court nearly 50 years after, or 47 years after the event. Now, one was where some school students claimed that there's a teacher who'd been like in his late 20s or early 30s or something at the time, like junior high school. And when they were going to like swimming, carnival sports or that sort of thing, he would allegedly get the boys to stand naked and he would inspect them. This is the claim, and now there was no sexual act or anything like that, and it's alleged that he pointed to their genitalia but didn't touch it, and this sort of thing. So it was pretty creepy. But what was it? Was there any sexual assault? Was there any touching? Was there any sexual act? Was there any pedophilia or something? No. Was it creepy and inappropriate? You bet. Was it necessary or needed? No, I can't see any circumstance where that would be necessary. Now you can say, this is a teacher at a school, you can say that the teacher there should have been some sort of oversight of the teacher's behaviour, and clearly that was the case. Now, this came up again 47 years or something after the event. Now, I was surprised that the Department of Prosecutions would take it up, a case that long ago, where there was no actual criminality, inappropriateness, creepiness, no question, but no criminality. There was no law that was broken that I'm aware of. Now, the Department of Prosecutions took it up with some sort of vigor. The resources they put into this quite surprised me. If it was a murder or something like that, I don't think they'd give a shit, or wouldn't even bother. But for this, they really put resources into it. Now, possibly because it was a Catholic school, I'm sure that played a role, and that the guy was a straight white male. I'm sure that played a role. But I think ideology, in other words, played a big part in the prosecutions making a decision to go and chase this one. But they went to the lengths of interviewing, tracking down. This is nearly 50 years ago. Tracking down students that had been in schools or his classes subsequent to this, and they couldn't draw any complaints. There was again no sexual act or anything. So they decided to bring it to court. Now by this stage, the guy is in his mid-80s. He's had a number of strokes. He's paralyzed. He can walk short distances in a walking frame. Otherwise, he's in a wheelchair. He needs a walking stick just to go to the toilet, and this sort of thing. So the guy's not in good shape. I mean, he's He's seen better days, and yet they decided to drag him. They decided to drag this half-paralysed 85-year-old guy into court. Now, this is looking very much like vengeance more than justice, or ideological vengeance. Well, he's a straight white male. He's a Christian. What else do we need to know? And that seems to be playing a role here, I would suspect. Remember, no crime's been committed. So they nail him on the technicality that it was tantamount to child abuse based on the laws of today. Those laws didn't exist back then. It was child abuse, and on the technicality that he had care over the students, which he did, and that therefore his behaviour was, again, tantamount to actually committing a sexual act, a perverse sexual act, or pedophilia in this case. So now what they nailed him on was a very technical interpretation of things. Now the judge hearing the case was someone who was involved in cleaning up the supposed perversions in the Christian community, and should have recused himself from this case. But anyway, so they decide then, on top of this, to throw the guy in prison. Now, given the medical care he needs and the help he needs, and they had to assure be sure that he would have a support, and that there'd be help getting around. So they've decided to lock. I mean, he'll die in prison. They decided to lock him up, and he'll be a very expensive prisoner to hold on the basis of this. Now, my view is, should this be allowed? Should this even exist? That this many years after the event, when no actual crime was committed, nor has it been alleged, creepy perversion, sure. Should people be going to prison for creepy perversive acts 50 years after the event? I mean, effectively, he was a peeping Tom on children, minors. Now, again, perverse and so on. If it had been discovered, should he have been fired? Well, that's an option. But it appears that he didn't commit any of these acts either before or since. Why did he only do it during that time? Why only that sort of window of less than 12 months out of his entire life? Why did that happen? So there's a few questions around that I certainly would be interested in. But it came down to believability. The people who today, remembering back 47 years ago, claimed he did this and said that and so on. The court decided to believe them and not believe the guy. Now, I don't know if the guy's denials were convincing. I mean, he probably did do some indiscreet things. Let's just accept that was the case. But is it an imprisonable offence? Why should, after this many years it come up, why should a man in that state of health near death be thrown in prison? And why is it that he is held to standards of today? Why should those standards be applied to behaviour of years ago? To give you an example, when this is in Australia where it's quite warm. I remember going to school swimming carnivals or doing sports for swimming for sports and that sort of stuff, and the teachers would, there's one teacher who'd previously been I think some sort of competitive swimmer, and they would give swimming lessons and coaching and this sort of thing. And I think there were a couple of kids there that went on to do competitive swimming, and the teacher would change with us in the change, the men's change room, the boys. And I didn't even think twice about it. It didn't cross my mind that it was good, bad, or anything else. I don't know. I'm just looking at it from a wider perspective. It seems why bring up something from that long ago? But look, should the person have been disciplined for that behaviour, which was clearly inappropriate? Well, sure, but is an imprisonable offence, particularly for so long ago. Now, also another Christian was gone after. I think it's borderline persecution, by the way. But again, straight white male Christian was persecuted on the basis that they did commit indecent acts. And again, you see tremendous zeal from the prosecuting departments and the police to to go after this guy and these are events from many decades ago. And the evidence was an allegation that just on the basic examination of the logistics and the facts just couldn't have happened. It would have been a massive stretch for that to have occurred. Yet the whole justice establishment seemed to go on what I thought was simply some act of ideological vengeance against straight white male Christians. And another case where a guy, a man, straight white male, who again a Christian, interestingly had a daughter, and she had friends for sleepovers, and it was alleged that he toweled, as in dried, after they'd had a shower or a bath or I don't know, swimming pool, whatever the fuck it was. But the guy allegedly used towels. This is on younger girls. They'd have been in early pubescence, probably 13, 14. He supposedly toweled them down, dried them after they'd been in the swimming pool. Now, whether he did or not, I don't know. But again, these women are now in their 50s, and so we're talking something 35 plus years ago. It was the guy's youngest daughter, and he was in his 50s again. He's pushing 90. And so, from the basis of telling, was there any claim of that there was sexual acts? No. Penetration? Did he, touch their reproductive organs or something like that? No. So there was no claim of, rape or sexual pedophilia. There's no. It's just that he told them that was that inappropriate behaviour. But this sort of goes to the wider thing. Well, he may have been thinking of doing it. And he's a straight white male Christian, and we must punish these straight white male Christians because of slavery, because of fascism, far right. And so there was a zeal in pursuing this guy that seemed to be out of all proportion to the actual crime. Now, was it perverse and so on? Yeah. Should he be? Of course not. I mean, that to me is gross. But is this 35 years after the event? Is this an offence that warrants putting someone in prison and putting the vast resources that the state did into going after him? Again, it seems like an ideological crusade of vengeance to me. So I think there should be a statute of limitations, but I'll be interested in seeing your comments in the comments section below. But the other side of it is, do the authorities, prosecutions, police, do they show the same zeal to go after murders? The straight white male that was murdered, the straight white male Christian was murdered 35, 40, 45 years ago, and the killer was never found. Would they put the same resources into pursuing that, pursuing a case like that, or a vicious assault that left the straight white Christian male paralyzed for the rest of his life? So, would they pursue that? It seems to be a fixation with pursuing moral, gender, race, gender and race-based type of moral crimes where no actual crime was committed, but there was definitely perverse acts. But they're then equating possible intentions, imagined intentions, with the actual committing of a crime. And those are two separate things. So I think a statute of limitations should apply, or that all cases should be pursued with equal vigour, and that moral crimes should not be used 30, 40, 50 years after the event as a launching pad to put straight white male Christians in prison. You've been attached to us today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.